even chooses to be willfully blind to the growing threats facing Canada.
This is going to be interesting right down to the last day. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today, we got a report coming out showing that the government is preparing for young Canadians being angry at older generations because they won't be afforded the opportunity to live a good life in Canada. They're planning out these scenarios, Canadians revolting, doing all sorts of things because they know it's a real possibility. We also have home equity tax being talked about again. Mark Carney has a lot of spending in his budget. Where is he going to get that money from? Is it from the houses of Canadians who are 60 years old and older? We also have that blue wave on Vancouver Island. It's growing. It's getting bigger. It's taking over the entire island. Let's jump into this. Starting off this one, we're seeing polling on Vancouver Island explode for Pierre Poilievre. As Table Salt is posted here, Aaron Gunn absolutely surging. The attempts to cancel him have backfired, and now he's taking the whole island with him. Look at this. It is crazy. Pierre Poilievre also announced yesterday he'll be going to Nanaimo to have a rally on the 25th, so I'll be going to that one if anyone's there and wants to say hi. So let's take a look at some of the ridings here. It's changing daily. This one's showing 42% Conservative, 35 NDP. This Nanaimo one is 32. This is actually a pretty wild riding here. You can see it's like, look at this. This is crazy. At one point, these were all pretty much matched within 2 or 3%. Now the Conservatives are running away with this. So Aaron Gunn's riding here, 51%. The only riding here going red is this one in Victoria, 37%. This is the downtown Victoria riding. These other ones here, they look like they're going to go Conservative. Something else to note here, if we zoom out, look at this map. So if Carney wins and there's this big push for separation, well, what is this looking like here? It's looking like 3 provinces, maybe even take Yukon too, break off from the rest of Canada. This is a real possibility because the West is getting screwed. It's just, we have been for decades. And if they're going to push their ESG net zero climate garbage, that'll just continue to hurt Alberta, and Albertans have had enough of that. British Columbians have had enough of it. We're seeing this all turn blue, aside from a couple of these ridings in Vancouver. What will happen? This one's a little, I'm not sure what the deal is with this one in northern Saskatchewan, but you can see here 59% Liberal. Why are we talking about Vancouver Island? It's not because I live here. It's because typically this is an NDP stronghold. If Pierre Poilievre can win Vancouver Island, he'll get a lot of extra seats that weren't necessarily projected. And if it's really close with the Liberals, this could make the difference between the Conservatives getting a minority or a majority government. You can see here, there's 1 riding, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's not going to win that one, but 6 extra seats here, as well as the rest of British Columbia here. There's a lot of seats. Next up, we got this one. Irresponsible immigration policies related to non-permanent resident cohort cause this. So what we're seeing here is non-immigration residents drive rent growth. And that's what we have. Non-permanent residents year over year is the blue. CPI rents almost matches it exactly. It's time for Canadians to be put first. Got this one from Table Salt. Says the government of Canada is already considering policy options for when youth will blame older Canadians for their inability to own a home or be upwardly mobile in society. They're literally planning for it. This is crazy. So it says some may blame the state. They may attack policies believed to favor older cohorts who benefited from the era of social mobility. In extreme cases, people would reject the state's legitimacy, leading to higher rates of tax evasion or other forms of civil disobedience. Some may choose to blame those with capital, whether it is social, economic, or decision-making capital. Others may choose to blame immigrants or another identifiable group. If such scapegoating becomes widespread, it could generate serious social or political conflicts. There's going to be riots. There's going to be social unrest. People are going to revolt against this country if a bunch of the older folk get to live a good life and the younger folk do not. We are on the edge of this right now. We will see what this election comes out with because the young crowd is coming out to vote. If you had the 18 to 30 and the 30 to 55 crew, there's more people in that than the older generation. They'll get outvoted if the younger generation shows up. Next up, we have a textbook example of CBC trying to help out their guy, Mark Carney, win the election.
Well, the Conservatives have been slow to put their own math out there. Of course, over the weekend, that left the Liberals free to tally up their own takes of how much everything would really cost. François-Philippe Champagne, the candidate who had been sworn in as finance minister under Carney, put out a bunch of figures trying to make that point over the weekend. That puts Pierre Poilievre on the defensive, trying to counterattack that a government led by Carney can't be trusted with the books any more than a government led by Justin Trudeau.
I think we all know that Liberal math doesn't add up. We've had them in power for 10 years, and they've missed every single deficit target that they've promised. Now we have Mark Carney making exactly the same, the budget will balance itself kind of commitments. So whenever Liberals present you with numbers, you should be afraid and very afraid. because their numbers are always wrong. Our approach is that every new dollar of spending should be met with savings, and I've already laid out a lot of those savings.
Platforms are policy documents, but this is also personal. Pierre Poilievre has built his political reputation on criticizing government finances, but polls suggest that voters so far are preferring his opponent, who has spent his career managing inflation and managing volatile markets. As about who best to lead in a crisis. Whether you are responding to that crisis by axing taxes, axing regulations, things that aren't really taxes, but you'll call them a tax anyway, as we heard Pierre Poilievre sort of do with his rhetoric on the plastics ban, for example.
Rhetoric, any opportunity they get to slam, they outright support Carney. They use words like that.
Whether you're out to give people a break and stimulate the economy through those methods, as we're going to see in the Conservative platform today, or whether you are focused on spending that will catalyze sort of further growth, in the words of Mark Carney, sort of investing, not spending. Build, baby, build is the phrase he's cottoned onto now.
Yeah, you know who says something like that? Drill, baby, drill, Donald Trump. Why are liberals not in outrage? Because he sounds exactly like Donald Trump. Build, baby, build. Drill, baby, drill.
Let's be frank. Neither of these approaches amount to fiscal austerity. And there is a good argument out there even that balanced budgets are not the point, should not be a priority in a world where things might be moving towards a global recession thanks to Donald Trump's tariffs. Politically, we also know that belt tightening is a tough sell for voters. You don't race to the ballot box to sort of have to swallow tough medicine like cuts. But
yeah, no point in having fiscal responsibility. Vote for Mark Carney. We don't want to vote for Poilievre and his belt tightening.
That is exactly what Liberals have been warning that Conservatives will have to do in order to pay for the tax cuts that they're proposing.
So it's funny, I didn't point it out in the video when she said catalyze. She's using Mark Carney's words, but Barbara here said that rhetoric, catalyze, she uses the same words as the Beijing banker Mark Carney to fearmonger. You know what I noticed today? Mark Carney also using, he keeps saying willfully blind and mentioning China. Like, that's Sam Cooper's book. And Mark Carney's the one compromised by China. And he keeps mentioning security clearance. He's trying to push all of that onto Poilievre, even though he's the compromised guy in this situation. So the next clip here is a perfect example of what I just said, where Mark Carney keeps saying willfully blind. He's trying to push all that China stuff off of him onto Poilievre. It's not going to work. So this clip itself is a massive police deployment here at Mark Carney's rally in Laval.
I don't think we can change President Trump. What we need is a leader and a party that can stand up to him. That leader is not Pierre Poilievre. He draws his inspiration from President Trump. He copies his ideas. His first...
This guy's copied like 7 or 8 of Pierre Poilievre's policies.
Poilievre's first instinct when our nation was attacked was to call Canada stupid.
Carney's first instinct was to fly over to France and meet with European leaders, who then turned him down and wouldn't do press conferences with him, both in France and in England. He did a quick photo op, had a closed-door meeting, and that was it. He got embarrassed on his first international tour. He broke the tradition of going and meeting with the American president. Mark Carney is a weak loser.
Call us soon. It was our fault. Pierre Poilievre even chooses to be willfully blind to the growing threats facing Canada by refusing, for some reason, to get his security clearance.
He already told you on the debate stage it's because you're compromised, and he was able to call you out because of that. It's his job to hold the government to account as the official opposition. Why is he even using this? Like, everyone saw it on the debate. It just makes him look stupid. He's trying to push this willfully blind onto Pierre Poilievre when he's the one who's got Xi Jinping campaigning for him. He's the one who's compromised by China. I mean, you can see it right here on Amazon. Willful blindness. This is Sam Cooper's book. He doesn't want this attached to his name, so he's trying to slough it off. It's not going to work, Carney.
What's he hiding?
Big fan.
Of the Liberal?
Of this guy, yeah?
Yeah.
Huge fan.
Why?
I think he's great. International banker man, coming here to help us. I love it.
Unfortunately, people like that, they go based off of perception. That guy doesn't know anything about Carney. He knows nothing. He has no knowledge of Carney. He's just making a decision. It's a bad decision that will hurt all of us. I think if people are going to vote in the election, they should at least understand who the people are, not just go based off of their gut instinct with no knowledge. It's stupid. Next up, the rally in Vaughan. We got this one posted by originally by Documenting Reality. We've got this boomer guy from Mark Carney's rally. Well, Karima, lawyer, blew him up into a cardboard cutout. Now people are taking photos with him. This is becoming the meme of the election.
Yes.
That's hilarious.
Oh, this is too good.
That's too funny. That loser will never live that down. I wonder what he thinks about this. This is hilarious. He's the meme. He's all over the internet at this point. Next up, we got the story of home equity tax making its way into the news circuit. We got articles being written about this. The Liberals have done a study in the past into this. This is not coming out of nowhere. The Liberals are salivating at this idea. Will Canadians take the gamble on the Liberals vote for them and hope that they don't come steal their fortunes out of their house? So these headlines are popping up everywhere now. We've got this one coming from the Winnipeg Sun. It says, beware, the next Liberal tax may be on the roof over your head. The numbers don't lie. Federal debt has more than doubled since 2015, climbing past 1.2 trillion. Interest payments on that debt are larger now than what Ottawa spends on healthcare transfers to the provinces. They've run out of room to borrow without consequences. Now they've run out of excuses, and now they'll be running out of people to tax, except you. If you own a home, if it's paid off, congratulations, you become the government's next target. For years, Liberal governments have hunted for new revenue sources. First, it was high-income earners. Then it was small businesses. Then it was emissions. And now they've found the motherlode, home equity. The combined equity in Canadian homes, what people actually own after mortgages, is worth trillions. That's not a typo, trillions. This wealth wasn't handed out. It wasn't generated by the government programs. It was built by Canadians who worked overtime, cut spending, and took risks to buy property and maintain it. When politicians see numbers that big, they don't think personal sacrifice, they see opportunity. They see a pot of money they didn't earn and try to tap, spin, and reframe as a solution to national problems, especially now as new programs promise with no fiscal discipline in sight. That brings us to Mark Carney. Carney isn't the face of some new centrist revival. He's a polished version of the same Liberal machine that brought you exploding deficits, carbon taxes, and economic drift. This article goes on here, it says it's not about fear-mongering, it's about pattern recognition. This government has spent beyond its means, taxed beyond reason, and blamed others for the consequences. They're not about to change course. They're about to double down. When they do, it won't be Ottawa's elite that take the hit. It'll be a homeowner in Winnipeg who finally paid off their mortgage. It'll be the senior who passed down a family home. It'll be small business owner who poured equity into their shop instead of renting. For now, the risk of home equity tax remains theoretical, but fiscal pressures could change that in the future. The reason that home equity tax is even being looked at by the Liberals is because if you look at the age of Canadians, at the top here is 100 years old, and as it goes out, we have this big bump here sitting right at 60 to 65 years old. If you look at the average lifespan of Canadians, it's about 75 to 82. Once this group here passes their house down to their kids, the Liberals want to be there to tax that. They want to scoop up that cash. We all break our backs for decades, and the tax man's there to collect. Poilievre vows to not impose home equity tax as Liberals NDP talk healthcare. So it says here, currently Canadians are exempt from paying capital gains tax on the sales of their primary residences, allowing those who own their homes to keep all proceeds. For many older Canadians planning to downsize, that sale can represent a significant portion of their retirement plan. Poilievre went on to claim, without offering evidence, that the incumbent Liberals would not let the status quo stand. So if we take a look back down memory lane here, we have this report that came out. So the Liberals conducted a study, says here, home equity tax study, funded by Generation Squeeze. If we take a look at this report from Generation Squeeze back March 2022, Generation Squeeze kicked off 2022 with a bang, releasing Wealth and the Problem of Housing Inequity Across Generations, a solutions lab. The reaction of both media and the public was swift, intense, and extremely varied, with reactions ranging from unequivocal support to complete opposition. So it goes on to talk about media mentions here and different examples. Surtax would help make homes more affordable report. CMHC funded report proposes $1 million home surtax. Canadians urged to create surtax on 1 million homes to rein in prices, fund affordable housing. Could taxing all homes over 1 million fix Canada's housing crisis? Like, there's a whole bunch here. 0.2% on 1 million homes could cool the housing market. They did a report here on home equity tax. So the Liberals are kicking this idea around. They wouldn't have spent all this time and money on this report if they weren't serious about thinking about this idea. It's not a far-fetched idea here. This is something look how long long this report is. They even have the breakdown here, $1 to $1.5 million homes, then percentage here, 5.5% of Canadian homes. All the numbers here, the surtax, 0.2%, 0.5%, 1%. Annual average deferrable surtax, $14,000 if you sell your house and it's over $2 million. This is not coming out of nowhere. This is coming from an actual report that the Liberals did. Perhaps this is a way Mark Carney wants to raise money with all of his outrageous spending that he's announced. Now that we've seen the study, whether it's $14,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 for every home that gets taxed, a home equity tax after someone perishes and transfers their house onto their kid, if we add up the population of people here and the amount of houses, there's roughly 7.33 million Canadians in this bracket here, in this age bracket. If we average $10,000 per house when it gets transferred onto their kid from an equity tax, that's roughly about $73 billion. Now that money gets pushed into government projects, more ESG, more net zero, more climate, this, that, and the other, and Brookfield's there to scoop up a lot of those projects as a trusted government contractor. Who makes money from that? It's not me, it's not you. Maybe it would be someone sitting in the throne. As for healthcare, the Liberals came out with this. They want to add thousands of new doctors. Thousands. What kind of plan is that? They should have a very specific number, like we want to add 1,265 because that's what we've budgeted for. Provide $500 million to immediate funding and support for emergency treatment fund for the street candy crisis. Make dental care, pharmacare available to over 8 million Canadians. Reduce healthcare times by building more hospitals, clinics, and specializing practice places. How about we don't fire all our nurses and have them go down to America with stupid decisions during the world event? Maybe beg to these nurses to come back and give them back pay. Commit $4 billion to working with provinces, territories to strengthen healthcare, yada yada. This plan is not a plan. This is horrible. What's also horrible is the fact that this flag is in a school gym. What are any of these flags doing here? There should only be a Canadian flag in Canadian schools, period. Provincial flags and the Canadian flag. That's it. Next up, we got a report here from Global News. Some interesting data here.
Till Election Day, new Ipsos polling done exclusively for Global News shows the gap between the Liberals and Conservatives is narrowing. The Conservatives now sitting at 38% nationally. The Liberals, though, still hold a 3-point lead over the Tories. The NDP has 12% of the vote, while the Bloc sits at 5% and the Greens at 2%. In terms of who Canadians believe would make the best prime minister, 41% chose Mark Carney, while 36% chose Pierre Poilievre. Jagmeet Singh coming in at a distant third with 11%.
Donald Trump and his constant threats to Canada seem to have subsided over the last few days, particularly the last week and a half. And as a result of that, the importance that issue has had in the campaign has started to decline. And Mr. Poilievre competes better when we're not focused on Mr. Trump.
When it comes to debate performance, Canadians were more inclined to say Poilievre outperformed.
So this one's interesting. You see the orange here and the yellow. The orange is better than expected. The yellow is worse than expected. So only 14% of people thought Carney did better than expected and 21% worse than expected. But the opposite was Pierre Poilievre here, 25% thinking he did better than expected. But look at Jagmeet Singh, 33% said he did worse than expected. I mean, that's because he was interrupting Pierre Poilievre the entire time. He kept on coughing when Poilievre would start to talk with his fake cough. It's all very obvious. So despite people's blind support for Mark Carney, not knowing anything about the guy, Poilievre's the one who came out with a better debate. There's zero chance the Liberals win this election. Yet we're going to find out here in a couple days. Too big to rig. Better get on the good side of the new boss. Who even watches the news? Great question. Who knows? Next up, we got Jagmeet Singh here continuing to campaign for Mark Carney. It's very clear he just wants to be a coalition partner again.
Pierre Poilievre? He's not serious. He wants to import Trump-style chaos into Canada while pretending he's got the answers. He'd hand our housing crisis to the same corporate landlords who caused it.
Are you kidding me? You've already called out Mark Carney and Brookfield during the leadership debate. Jagmeet very rarely gets zingers on Mark Carney because he knows his political future is to do another coalition with him. I've got boots on the ground here telling me that on Vancouver Island, Jagmeet was in Comox yesterday and Nanaimo the day before, and they're bussing around their supporters to have more numbers at their events so they don't look so pitiful. He can't make this stuff up. Jagmeet Singh just hopes he doesn't come in last in his riding. Jagmeet's gonna lose his seat, so, this guy's done. Next up, we got Justin Trudeau being awarded the appreciation plaque for his service and support to the Sikh community.
Appreciation award presented to Honorable Justin Trudeau, for your dedication service in defending Sikh rights with deep gratitude.
Okay, what is this? So there's his award. Justin Pierre James Trudeau shows Trudeau's real disdain for the Sikh community. Now that your vote is useless to him, he has no use for your community. Whether it's home equity tax or young Canadians versus old Canadians, Canada's in for a rough ride, and maybe that's what the Liberals want. One thing's for certain, Mark Carney isn't going to fix this problem.